she saw the little fish jump out of the tank. Her first instinct was to call her dad for help, but she couldn't speak. Desperate to keep the fish alive, she quickly splashed water on it, but it didn't work. Panicking, she accidentally knocked over the fish tank. Hearing the noise, her dad rushed in, but instead of asking what happened, he scolded her right away. She wanted to explain, but her dad wouldn't listen at all. This made Melody feel so wronged. But it wasn't the first time she had been misunderstood. Melody was born with cerebral palsy. She couldn't speak, couldn't walk, and relied on a wheelchair to get around. The only way she could communicate was by pointing at fixed words on her wheelchair. She had attended a special school since she was little, a place where students either had intellectual disabilities or physical impairments. Melody was in the latter group. She was extremely intelligent, but because of her appearance, people often assumed otherwise. She longed for a normal life, one where she could freely express herself and join others in outdoor activities. But those were dreams she would never be able to achieve. At her school, lessons were designed to accommodate most students, meaning they only covered the basics. But Melody had already mastered all of it. She wanted to learn more, to study advanced subjects like regular students. Yet the teachers had no plans to change the curriculum. Until one day, a special teacher walked into the classroom. Her name was Catherine, a PhD specializing in education. And she was the first teacher who truly understood Melody. Melody wanted to respond, but the words she needed weren't in her usual set. So she pointed at the wallpaper on the wall. Catherine understood instantly. During their conversations, Catherine realized that with Melody's intelligence, she should be attending a regular school. It just so happened that Catherine was working on a program to help students like Melody enroll in public schools. Determined, she visited Melody's home, convinced that Melody was more than capable of keeping up with a standard curriculum. But Melody's mother strongly opposed the idea. Worried that Melody might be bullied at school, her mother not only rejected Catherine's proposal, but also tucked away all the documents Catherine had left behind. But on Halloween, a neighbor stopped by to drop off costumes for Melody and her sister. By chance, she spotted the documents and immediately lit up with excitement. Melody was thrilled when she heard this. She desperately wanted to go to a regular school and kept tapping frantically to say want. But her mother didn't even look at her. Seeing that Melody's mother wasn't on board, the neighbor pulled Melody aside. The next day, her father called her to get up for school. For the first time, Melody showed strong resistance. She was protesting her parents making decisions without considering her wishes. When her mother brought her breakfast, she refused to eat. Seeing how determined Melody was, her father couldn't bear it. But her mother was just trying to protect her daughter. But in order to respect Melody's decision, her father signed the documents. Finally, Melody was able to attend a regular class, just as she had wished. However, the concerns her mother had feared came true. When she first entered the class, she was met with curious and surprised looks from the other students. Soon, the lesson began. When the teacher asked a simple question, a student suggested, "Why don't we ask the new student?" The teacher then turned to Melody and asked her the question. Melody looked at her word board, but couldn't find the right words. She glanced around the room, then pointed to the wall again. Catherine immediately understood and gave the answer for Melody. But some students quickly questioned, saying it was really Catherine answering, since technically Melody hadn't said anything. So the teacher asked another question. This time, to prove it was Melody answering, she slowly spelled out each letter. But before she could finish, the teacher impatiently spoke the answer for her. After class, she noticed the girl sitting next to her had a beautiful pair of shoes and decided to greet her. Even though the response was cold, Melody was still overjoyed. She was thrilled because this was the first friend she had ever made. When her mother said they were going to a university tech exhibition, Melody asked if she could bring a friend along. To make a good impression on her new friend, she asked her mom to pick out a nice outfit for her. She wanted to wear tights, but her mother refused because they would make going to the bathroom difficult. Melody had never worn anything like that before, and her mother didn't understand why she suddenly wanted to change. It wasn't until she saw Rose that she finally understood. Melody just wanted to be like her peers. When Rose came to her house, she was clearly a bit unsure of how to act. It was her first time meeting someone like Melody, and she didn't know how to interact with her. They went to the tech exhibition together, but along the way, Rose ran into some other friends and started chatting with them. But after running into her friend, she completely ignored Melody. Melody's dad saw this and was not happy at all. But Melody didn't want her dad to step in. Friendship shouldn't be forced. Since birth, Melody has been unable to speak and walk due to cerebral palsy. She's incredibly smart, but people always judge her based on her appearance. With the help of her teacher, Catherine, this was her first year transitioning from a special needs school to a public school. But everything was unbelievably tough for her, especially when it came to making friends. Angry and frustrated, she ran off to a quiet corner of the exhibition. On the big screen, there was a documentary about Stephen Hawking. Melody thought, if only I could speak like Hawking. When her father found her, she immediately expressed her wish. To fulfill Melody's dream, her father quickly found a speech assistance system, but the system cost nearly $20,000, a price they couldn't afford. To help her daughter speak, they had no choice but to apply for assistance through their insurance company. However, the insurance company required an assessment to confirm that Melody truly needed a speech aid. The evaluator showed her a set of pictures: tomato, balloon, strawberry, cherry, and banana. She was asked to choose the one that was different. Melody initially wanted to pick the banana because it was the only yellow one. After much hesitation, she chose the balloon instead, because a balloon can't be eaten. But she failed the test. Frustrated, Melody shouted outside, but no one could hear her. Luckily, with Catherine's help, Melody eventually got her own speech system. She set it to a voice she liked, and when her father came home, she couldn't wait to run up to him. And for the first time, her father finally heard his daughter speak.
Daddy, Ollie jumped out of his tank.
Her first words were an explanation of the misunderstanding happened so long ago. Her father immediately broke down. He couldn't imagine how much Melody had suffered in silence, unable to speak. But now, at least she could finally speak. With her new device, Melody went to class. During the lesson, she couldn't help but speak up. But the teacher wasn't happy because Melody hadn't raised her hand. Soon after, the teacher announced an upcoming nationwide quiz competition. The school would select 4 students to represent the school in the competition, and there would be a test to choose them based on their performance. After class, Melody tried to talk to Rose, but accidentally typed the wrong word. The other students laughed at her. Rose, afraid of being isolated, walked away too. Melody realized that her speech system was too mechanical and couldn't fully express her thoughts. So, she sought Catherine's help to upgrade her device. She knew Rose wanted to distance herself, but she still gave it her all to try and make this friend. Once she was ready, she went to find Rose again. But after just a couple of words, Rose still wanted to leave. In a hurry, Melody pulled out the quiz questions she had prepared. That finally caught Rose's attention. Rose was eager to join the quiz team, and this was exactly what she needed. To prepare for the competition, Rose invited Melody over to her house to help her study. As they worked together, their bond slowly grew stronger. On the day of the test, the other students didn't want Melody to participate. This was the first time Rose spoke up for Melody. After class, Rose took the initiative to call out to Melody. When Melody approached, the other students looked at her with disdain and quickly got up to leave. But this time, Rose didn't move. Instead, she invited Melody to go shopping with her over the weekend. Melody was thrilled. She had finally made a friend. On the weekend, Rose took her to the mall, where a new store that was incredibly popular had just opened. There was a long line of people waiting to get in. Seeing that Rose was getting a little impatient, Melody had an idea. Other customers couldn't stand watching any longer, so the security guard let them in first. The 2 girls had an absolute blast, something Melody had never experienced before. Rose even danced with Melody, treating her just like anyone else, not as someone special. That day, the teacher announced the results. Thanks to Melody's help, Rose made the cut. But Melody's name wasn't on the list. She was confused. She had answered every question correctly. She had to be selected. When her parents found out, they took Melody straight to the school. Because Melody and her parents stood their ground, the school had no choice but to adjust the competition lineup. That meant Rose, who was originally the last member on the team, got moved to the backup spot. She had worked so hard for this competition, and now Melody had taken her place. From that day on, Rose started keeping her distance from Melody again. But Melody hadn't done anything wrong. She was just fighting for the opportunity she rightfully earned. On the day of the competition, Melody still went up to Rose, hoping to patch things up. Rose's words cut deep, but with the competition ahead, Melody had no choice but to push through and focus. She performed flawlessly, never missing a single question. In the end, both schools were tied. The organizers decided on a tiebreaker. Each team would pick one player for a head-to-head showdown. The first to answer incorrectly would lose the match. But when it came time to choose, things got heated. Melody had the highest score, yet another girl didn't want her to compete. However, Melody's outstanding performance throughout the competition couldn't be ignored. The remaining 2 teammates ended up voting for her, securing her spot in the tiebreaker. At first, the match was neck and neck. But as the questions got harder, Melody stayed sharp. On a crucial question, she outsmarted her opponent, securing victory and earning her school a spot at nationals. The room erupted in cheers. After the competition, everyone celebrated. But even after Melody's incredible performance, some people still singled her out. At the banquet, a few girls noticed the way she ate and started whispering, openly mocking her. It was as if they had completely forgotten this celebration was only possible because of her. Later, she talked to Catherine. Melody knew that deep down, some people just didn't want her there. But she wasn't about to back down. Before heading to nationals, the team went out for a meal together. But they didn't invite Melody. Meanwhile, the team leader suddenly received an urgent message. Their flight had been canceled. They had to switch to an earlier flight and leave right now. But Melody was still at home. When her mom got the news, she rushed to get Melody to the airport. They raced against time, doing everything they could to make it. By the time they reached the gate, the doors had already closed. The staff refused to let them board. Just like that, Melody missed the competition. Heartbroken, she turned and left. No matter how strong Melody was, she couldn't escape the relentless blows life kept throwing at her. Frustrated and heartbroken, she completely wrecked her communication device. Her mom, upset, decided to take her out for a drive. As she backed up the car, she scolded Melody for breaking such an expensive machine. At that moment, Melody saw her little sister walking right behind the car. She screamed with all her might, but her mom didn't understand. She thought Melody was just having another outburst. Thankfully, her little sister was okay. When the doctors confirmed there was no brain injury, Melody finally breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't want her sister to go through what she had. That's when her mom realized Melody had been trying to warn her, and for the first time, it hit her. They had never truly listened to Melody, not the way she needed them to, and Melody had never fully spoken her heart out either. Her mom encouraged her, no matter what, they would always have her back. With that reassurance, Melody gathered her courage and stepped back into the classroom once again. And with that, the movie ends. Out of My Mind is a 2024 Disney film about a girl with cerebral palsy. What makes it even more special is that the actress who plays Melody also has cerebral palsy in real life, and her performance is truly amazing. I really appreciate how this movie doesn't shy away from the real challenges disabled people face when trying to fit in. It tells the story in an honest and respectful way, making it a must-watch. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and see you in the next movie.